Okay, so let's dive in now into the second part of Matthew 23 and verse 13. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut the kingdom of heaven in men's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Now this is this is talking to people who are religious leaders. These are the pastors, the deacons, all these of a church. But they are they're shutting the door because of all their religious spirit, all the things that they were doing that we talked about yesterday and even last week. They were shutting the door on people's faces where they couldn't even get into the kingdom of heaven. They were making it impossible. But on top of that, they weren't even getting into the kingdom of heaven because they were being hypocrites and they weren't even following the law or the spirit of the law. So he continues on. Woe to you, teachers of the law and the Pharisees, you hypocrites! You travel over land and sea to win a single convert, and when he becomes one, you make him twice as much a son of hell as you are. Now, there is evidence in Josephus, when you read his works, that they did proselytize, so they would go across different regions at this particular time to convert different ones into Israel to become a Jew. So there was that going on. But I mean, you see this even today. There's people who go and do missions work to convert others. But the problem is they convert them into from one religion or one way of thinking into another, and both of them are false, and both of them lead to hell. They're not of God. God's way is totally different than this religious spirit that these Pharisees and religious leaders had. And this is what God's confronting. Jesus did not want this. Jesus comforted those who were open to receive him and to receive the truth. But those who are hard-hearted like these, that were manipulative, that were leading his people astray, and refused to see the truth, these are the ones he exposes, just like we talked about yesterday. So let's read the next one. In verse 16. Woe to you, blind guides. Again, they're leading astray. And if you lead God's sheep astray, it's Ezekiel talks about this. Ezekiel 29, 37 to 38, actually, I think. Oh, no, that's Exodus. There is a passage in Ezekiel that talks about this as well, that you are, as shepherds, you are to take care of the flock. And if you don't, the blood of those are going to be on your hands. 29, 37 to 38 says, this is for the next woe. Let's read the next woe first. Which is greater? Let's see. If anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing. But if anyone swears by the gold of the temple, he is bound by his oath. You blind fools, which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred? You also say, if anyone swears by the altar, it means nothing. But if anyone swears by the gift on it, he is bound by his oath. You blind men, which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? Therefore, he who swears by the altar swears by it and by everything on it. And he who swears by the temple swears by it and by the one who dwells in it. And he who swears by heaven swears by God's throne and by the one who sits on it. Okay, so now let's go to Exodus 29, 37 to 38. For 7 days make atonement for the altar and consecrate it. Then the altar will be most holy, and whatever touches it will be holy. This is what you are to offer on the altar regularly each day, 2 lambs a year old. So if anything is on the altar, it becomes holy. So this is what he's saying. If anyone swears by the altar, it means nothing. If anyone swears by the gift on it, he is bound by his oath. That's what they were saying. But he's saying that if anything is on the altar, then the gift becomes sacred. But why are you making these oaths? You're swearing. First, we also talked about this, I think, in chapter 5, that you shouldn't be swearing or making an oath. Just let your yes be yes, your no be no. But these people were swearing by the altar, but they were also mixing things up. Which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred? Why would you swear by the gold, which is not the part that's sacred? That's just materials. But it was the temple that made the gold sacred. Same thing with the altar. It wasn't the bulls that was sacred. It was the altar that made it sacred. Yeah, what were they doing? They were swearing by the thing that was not sacred, the thing that was just a material. And so that is what God's saying. You have everything mixed up. You don't understand any of this and what the point is. So he's saying if you're going to at least have some common sense in this, think about what you're actually doing. You're swearing by things that are not of God. They're they don't have any representation of symbolic representation on its own, but when it's brought into a sacred place, then that's where it becomes sacred. That's where it has meaning and purpose. Yet you have made your what's sacred, you have mixed up what's sacred. You have changed it around. So you are putting your uh, you're putting your blessing and the holiness on something that I never made holy. I made the temple holy. I made the altar holy. The animal and the gold, that was not holy. But you switched the positions. And because of that, everything is contaminated and distorted in your perspective. So let's pick up here tomorrow in verse 23.